Right, we are going live on Facebook. So we are on the starting screen on Facebook and we are live on YouTube.
Yay! Eventually, that's gonna be smooth.
Yeah.
Well,
And now we are live. Oh, this is
yeah.
not. J'entends les choses. Je veux pas entendre les choses. Hi.
Hi, you good?
I'm good. I
All
think
right.
I'm good.
Great.
Wait, no, I'm not good. Now I'm good. My
Yeah.
microphone was muted. Hello.
Yeah. Check that as well.
Yeah. At
What?
least we noticed it earlier last time
Yeah.
than last time.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, hello guys. Welcome to latest installment of Mental BreakDads, which is the official podcast of Mental BreakDads. Because the first order of business is that we decided to change the brand slightly.
I guess we should have addressed that, eh?
Yeah, I felt like we needed to open with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
smart move. Good move.
we kind of noticed that Dads After Dark is not a super original title. Like a lot of people seem to have that, including other gaming channel and other podcasts, which suck. And after carefully checking, it seems Metal Brick Dads is somewhat original.
So just to clarify your last sentence, is it the fact that other podcasts have this name that sucks, or do the other podcasts suck?
Oh, I didn't check them. I felt that felt wrong. So I'm not. So yeah,
Alas, oh fun.
from that point on, we're gonna lean more onto the Mantle Break Dads as the new branding. But Dads After Dark will always live in our hearts.
Absolutely, because we are dads doing this after dark.
Indeed. Although it doesn't mean
Not
much
everybody else
in
does.
Canada because like it's dark
Yeah,
half the year, but
yeah, especially with winter on its way.
well,
But here we are.
yep. So thank you for joining us today on technically the first episode of Mental Break Dad's official Mental Break Dad's podcast. That
Uh,
so what's your
Technicality, I guess.
how was your week?
Oh, the week? Oh boy, well, we could have a whole episode about the week I had. It was garbage. Uh, just everybody in my house, except my girlfriend, got sick at one point or another. So juggling work, school, and daycare, and one was sick, one wasn't, and having to drop people off, and just that whole puzzle was horrible this week. And tomorrow I have a somewhat normal looking day so far, knocking on wood. Um, Partly because my mother's coming to babysit. Thank God for
Oh,
mothers, right?
yeah.
Uh, but aside from that, like it's just been a hectic week, and I don't know if you heard it in my voice, but I'm also a little bit sick, so that's been fun. It might be, in my case, that's the thing too. Like me and both my kids got sick at different levels and different times, and all different ish symptoms. Like I think me and my youngest have about the same thing, which is mostly sore throat and stuffiness in the nose. But my oldest was sent home from school this morning because of his eyes. His eyes were watery and they were hurting him and they were really bothering him. So they were afraid of conjunctivitis, of pink eye. Um, but I gave him some allergy meds around lunchtime and it seemed to have cleared it. So I think it may have just been allergies. I don't know. It's confusing. He's still nodding all over the place. So I'm going to keep him home tomorrow, which is why my mom's babysitting. But yeah, that's that's about it. How about you? How was your week?
It's kind of similar. Hard. Well, not sick, but the little one is teething, so that's always a
Oh,
fun time.
mm-hmm.
Um,
It's some short nights often, eh?
yeah, yeah, it's rough. But in terms of fun stuff, I've finally been able. I think I mentioned it to you. I was finally able, after like literally years of trying, was able to install Battle for Middle Earth 2 again on my computer.
Yes, yes, you mentioned that. That's awesome.
And then I had to finagle another entire day, mostly. Well, in breaks, but like I had to
Yeah.
finagle uh to make a mod work. So like I had to install a patch and then like downgrade the patch to another version before that so that it matches one mod. Like I had to
Okay.
rewrite some like files by myself manually to make it work, but now it does and it's great. So I'm
Now you
happy
know how
about
to
it.
code.
Yeah, that's me. That's so well. That's
Uh,
worth it because it's one of my favorite RTS of all time. It's a really good game. Really good bones and really great modding community as well. So really happy about that.
Yeah, I remember when we were younger, I think I watched you play. I don't think I've actually played it because I used to enjoy watching you play a lot of games. Um, like literally. Uh, but I think I watched you play that a few times, and it looked really cool. Like it's an interesting concept that you don't see a lot in other RTSs, I find. Like, and you were mentioning to me the other day too that you can actually like create your own hero, which I thought was really cool. Like create your own general,
Yeah. Yeah,
which I
you have
didn't
like
know, and I thought
lot.
that was really cool.
Yeah, you have lots of options. I just love bullshitting around in the creator. It's fun. So and the mods also have added like a lot of side characters that were not in the main game, like because the
Yeah, I
game
can imagine.
the game's mostly focused on the movie stuff and less about the book stuff.
Mm.
Whereas like this one has a lot of the side characters that I've like grown attached to much more than the actual main cast. So
Yeah,
yeah, cool stuff.
that's cool.
Uh, well, with that out of the way, subject of the day, the main chunk of this episode, you approached me with the subject. So do you care to introduce it for me and the audience?
Yeah, sure. So basically, what I thought we could talk about today is a bit of vocabulary when it comes to mental health, but not really the vocabulary of mental health, but how important vocabulary can be. Um, as you know, as so most people probably know, I think I've probably mentioned it a few times. I see a psychologist regularly, um, and the last time that I spoke to her was a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about um, empowering ourselves and trying to find ways to not feel so stuck in depression and in anxiety and things like that. Because there's all these tricks that we've talked about over the years of trying things um, to help in one way or another. And some of them help, some of them work, some of them didn't, and that's okay. You move on and you try another one. But I always felt like I was going to be stuck with my anxiety forever. And my psychologist was very good in telling me, yeah, your anxiety is part of you now, and you have to accept it. And that's when we started talking about the word acceptance, because I didn't like that concept the way that I understood it. I told her that I said I don't want to accept it. I want to change it. I want to do something about it. I don't want to be powerless and not address this issue that's hindering my life really. Uh, and she says, okay, but what you're talking about is resignation. You're talking about resigning yourself to anxiety, to the reality that you have anxiety. You're not talking about accepting it. And that's when I kind of calmed down and I got curious and I said, okay, what do you mean? And this is the kind of the moment that I understood how important it is to understand the words that you're being told and the words that you're saying and asking questions, because what she explained to me made absolute sense. When you're resigning yourself to a situation, you're saying this shitty situation is happening, this shitty thing exists, and there's nothing I can do about it. But when you're accepting something, then it's the beginning of a process. You're accepting, okay, this thing exists. This is this, like I'm holding my fist right now. This fist is a fist. I'm accepting that. But what can I do about it? And that's when you start asking the questions and you start developing the different tools to try and do something about it. Well, this fist is a fist. What can I do about it? I can open my hand, for example. And it's all a question of um, trying to find that the mix of mentality and of point of view, and also that drive that you kind of need to want to do something about it, and to push yourself to do something about it. Which, let's be honest, when you have any kind of mental health issue, pushing yourself to do anything, not always easy.
Yeah.
And that's why people say that accepting is so hard, because when you accept, you don't just stop there. You got to keep going, and you got to keep moving, and you got to find ways. You got to find what you can do about it. But it's very empowering and very not final, which is much more encouraging than resigning yourself to something. So that was kind of our breakthrough a few weeks ago.
Yeah, because resigning is essentially like accepting that this is the end, and whereas like accepting is like a like is a shift. I like yeah, it's just like a new like step in your life. So that's a totally different approach to a situation. And your therapist is totally right. Like you, and I guess that's a one way of like approaching mental illness. That like the fact that we called it an illness, but like just more like it's not like I mean it has physical elements to it, but like it doesn't work like a physical illness, because like you can't fix it. You can't get cured of like a mental illness. That's not how it works. Like it's more like a disability to some degree. Like you it's like it's something that's gonna affect you. That's like something happened to you, either trauma or just accumulated stress, or maybe that just like, your chemicals aren't right, and that's it. And then like the way your body works changes, and even though you can make it work better by using medication, by doing certain types of therapy, but like it's still part of you now. Like I'm gonna be anxious all my life. I'm gonna be depressed all my life. I'm gonna have ADHD all my life. That's just how it is, and that's fine. Just like, yeah, you need to accept that's part of who you are, and it makes you rethink who you are and use that as a like bouncing platform to get to new heights, or like a new place at least, instead of being stuck in, I guess, like this like void, and like this uncertainty of not knowing where to go, what to be, and how do you get out, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the hard part, right? Because if you're depressed, or if you're suffering from anxiety, then it's really easy to stay passive about it, and to kind of want to hide, and just shelter yourself and protect yourself, and you build that shell around you, and that and you don't want to break out of it. And I've been there. I go there sometimes still, like,
Yeah.
uh, but and there's a part of you that knows that in the long run you're not helping yourself, but at that point in time you don't have the strength and energy to help yourself right now, so you shelter yourself and you hide yourself. But it's important to take advantage of those moments when you do have a little bit of surplus of energy, a little bit of more drive on a particular day, in a particular hour, whatever, to do something that moves you forward a little bit, and to try and refill that positive energy tank that you've that was exhausted for whatever reason. Like you mentioned, there's a bajillion reasons to feel this way. Um, it, it, it was interesting. just because you mentioned the chemical imbalance, that's something that I didn't know when I first started getting treated for my depression, and that my doctor um, mentioned to me when she prescribed the antidepressants, because the antidepressants that I have, um, they most antidepressants will hit one chemical. They'll go and boost one chemical at a time. And usually, like whether it's dopamine or serotonin or one of those is low, and then an antidepressant will help like jack it up a little bit and try to help you get over that hump, right? But we couldn't figure out which one of mine was low. So that's why she gave me the antidepressant that I'm on now, which attacks all three, uh, all three chemicals at once. So not to the same extent as another antidepressant would, but it kind of boosts them all to try and just kind of like a generalized antidepressant, which makes it that you can't mix it with absolutely anything. I'm going off on a tangent here, but I was reading the list of foods that I need to watch out for, and basically anything that has theramine in it, and theramine is in cheese. So I was
Oh,
joking with my mother at one point that I could go on a cheese overdose, uh,
wow.
which sounds like a great way to go. Uh,
It's pretty good as far as deaths go.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like if you're gonna choose, may as well do it something while you're doing something you love, right? Eating cheese. But yeah, to get back to the subject at hand, um, I think the best way that I've read it, because I did a bit of research on that afterwards, was seeing, like you mentioned, resignation as an endpoint, as a finality, and seeing acceptance as a transition. So you have that downward spiral where you're seeing this shit unravel in front of you, right? This bad situation unravel in front of you, and when you accept it, all of a sudden that's your springboard. It's your transition to go upwards, and going back upwards, as in real life, you're fighting against gravity. So it's always going to be hard. It's always going to be tough.
Yeah.
You just got to keep finding little strategies, little things to keep climbing up, really. But it's a lifelong battle for sure. Another thing I wanted to mention actually is when you were saying that it's similar to a disability, I've seen it being compared to the syndromes with chronic pain, which I thought was interesting because I thought it was a very good analogy. Because people with chronic pain, I've known a few throughout my life, even though I don't live that myself, but they have good days, they have bad days. There's days where it's unbearable, there's days where they barely notice it. Um, and like you said, you can't cure from any chronic pain diseases. You just gotta find ways to adapt and find ways to push through it. And with the help of medical science, whether it be technology or medication or things like that. So there's always ways to there's always outside things that can help you. Um, for chronic pain, you have physical therapists that will help you. For mental illness, you have psychological therapists that will help you.
Yeah.
So there are resources out there that you can kind of go and check, but it has to come from you too.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing, right? Because like a lot of from an outsider's perspective, it's hard for like people. I'm gonna say like typical people to understand that like it seems like people that are depressed don't want to help themselves, and something you hear a lot is like, well, do something about it. But like part of the
Just be happy.
yeah part part of that disorder is that you cannot help yourself. Like it it makes you like it changes your brain so that you don't have energy to do anything. You don't have the will to go on. You It changes your perception of reality and your relation with any relationships, that it makes you feel like you're worthless and that you're um a burden for other people, which means you're gonna like build walls around yourself and like between you and your close ones. So you're not gonna seek out help because you don't feel like you're worthy of it. And even when you do, you feel helpless or you feel like you don't have energy. And every little obstacle seems like a mountain. So it's really hard to do anything about it
Yeah,
because that's the like depression is like a parasite. It doesn't want to be cured. It
that's exactly what I was gonna say,
doesn't want to
actually.
be fixed.
Yeah. No, it wants to survive.
Yeah.
It wants to live, and it's gonna leech off of you to survive and make you think that it can't go away. So that it's true. It's right if it's making you think it can't go away, but it's making you think that there's nothing that you can do that'll make it better, and that's not true.
Yeah, no,
Um,
you can. It's yeah, but and the chronic pain analogy is good because the same way like you can adapt to this new life you by using, well, depending on how it happened, you also use like therapy, like psychological help, but like the way you get over chronic pain is doing physical therapy, and mental therapy is the same. It learn like you get to learn to relearn how to make your brain works and do stuff and how to attack certain and tackle certain things. It's not just about like, oh, it all started with my mother. Like it's
yeah,
giving
and
you concrete tools to work out your life, how to deal with these new disorders, accepting them and tackling them.
I think you mentioned something super important that we could actually maybe make a subject out of it, like what is therapy? Because because I've spoken to people when I started seeing a therapist, and I saw how it was helping me, and I was kind of saying, hey, like maybe it's something that you should consider. You know, I'm not saying that everybody's depressed and everybody should see a therapist, but it it doesn't hurt to get a little bit of help, even if it's just if it's temporary. Then great, you know, that's awesome. Um, but the biggest resistance that I kept seeing in friends and people that I talked to was, oh, but I don't want the person to blame everything on my parents, or I don't want the person to tell me that I have to cut connections with people or things like that. A therapist will never tell you to do anything. They're like, that's not their job to say, oh, this person is poison in your life. You gotta cut that away. You gotta cut that bridge. The therapist, in my case, anyways, and I'm sure, like, I've seen two therapists, and one of them was awful, one of them was great, but the so they all have different styles, is what I'm getting at. But the therapist's job is to make you figure it out on your own, is to ask those questions and to kind of direct the conversation, because they don't know, they're not in your head, right? So they can't know exactly what's going on, but they're trained to have these questions to ask you and to kind of direct the conversation where you don't necessarily want to go, because a lot of these subjects you don't want to go see, right? It hurts, it sucks, it's past pain that you don't want to explore, but that you kind of have to, or that you don't understand. And then when you understand it, you're like, oh my God, this sucks. Because generally that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I'm getting at is that their job is not to tell you to do anything. Their job is to make you figure out what could help you, and then give you tips and tricks on how to apply those things to real life. Because if you're if you what's the word I'm looking for here? If you self-diagnose yourself as being anxious, then you could try breathing exercises. You can find those online. You could try meditation. You can find a bunch of guides online. Like there's a bunch of things that you can help like that. But what a therapist will do is confirm whether or not it's anxiety or depression or ADHD, which all have very intertwined symptoms, and it's very difficult to kind of make the difference. And then where you go from there can vary vastly from one from the other, right? So that's their job, is to kind of help you unweave that web and try to figure out where to go from there. Because, like I said, they don't know, but they're trained to help you figure it out and figure it out with you.
Yeah, it's gonna click, right? Like you're gonna like everything is gonna suddenly make sense. Like they're gonna ask questions that are just gonna put pieces together, and eventually, but the puzzle is still yours to actually connect and complete. I haven't done actually any like therapy with a therapist. Like I've done just like self stuff because it's well, pandemic hit and it was harder to start
Yeah, for sure.
shopping for therapists because you do need to find the right one. Uh, so yeah, I didn't get to yet, but yeah, when I started to do anxiety, I looked up how to do like cognitive behavioral therapy, which helped a lot back in the day. Um, when I started to realize that I was neurodivergent and like probably ADHD. I don't like to say I have ADHD because I don't know yet, but I know that I'm neurodivergent at least. So,
Which is kind of what I was saying earlier. Like that's where a therapist or a doctor comes in to help you kind of unweave that to figure out which it is. But yeah, you if you're interested in what we're saying right now, then there's a chance that you're feeling something and you would need to figure out what it is, right? But then figuring out what it is the hard part. But sorry, keep going. I interrupted.
but not. I was just saying that I I'd like to. I want to, and you mentioned that like everyone would benefit, and I totally agree. I think everyone has something on their mind that's bothering them. Anyone who needs to vent at some point need to say stuff, and even if you're just like having a positive life, that's great. Like you still can get to know yourself better, and that's just gonna make it live like just gonna make life better because
Yeah,
like understanding who you are and how are things and how you can control certain things about your life, it's liberating, and it's just a great feeling, man.
yeah, definitely. I think you kind of put your finger on it in the words you use, maybe not consciously, but not everybody needs therapy, but everybody can benefit from it. Is what I think, anyways, and what I hear you say as well.
Totally, totally.
But yeah, so if there's one thing that you need to know about vocabulary and mental health, for acceptance and resignation in particular, is that resignation is the end. Is you tried everything, nothing works, you leave it. And to be honest, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like it's one thing to want to feel empowered and want to do something about a situation, but if you're knocking your head on a brick wall constantly, then that's not going to help your mental health either. So there's some situations that you just need to let go, and that's something that you can do, is accepting that this is the thing that's not going to change and let it go. That's the only power you have. And then accepting is that transition that we were talking about, that springboard into actual things that you can try, and maybe not solve the issue, and definitely not fix the issue, especially if it's a bad situation that happened to you. You can't go back in time and fix it, but there might be things that you can do, tricks that you can find, to make it just a little bit better, just a little bit easier to handle. And that's the main difference between resignation and acceptance.
Yeah. And on those beautiful thoughts, um, anything else to add?
No, I don't think so. Um, Other than if anything that we're saying in these podcasts is ringing true to you, feel free to let us know. Feel free to tell us if you have ideas for subjects or things like that.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to reach out and get help. Like there's so many people out there that you wouldn't think are trying to help you or want to help you, but do. And there's professionals out there that obviously there's fees and there's certain barriers that are a bit harder to cross for some people, to get that kind of help, but it exists and it's definitely something worth looking into.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you can send us any question on the matter, or ask for counsel. But really, like, I mean, we have experience with it, but we're not professionals either, so we can direct you to certain resources that can help you, certain services. But yeah, that's we can help you start on the journey, but we can't. We can guide you more than that. But
Yeah,
hopefully,
basically,
we can help.
whatever we say on these podcasts and whatever we say, if you do talk to us, treat it like it was a friend giving you advice and not professional advice from a therapist or a doctor, because that's irreplaceable.
Yep. Well, thanks for joining us today. Thank you, my co-hosts. That was a great discussion as always.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Metal BreakDads. Yeah, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to suggest subjects you want us to tackle, just reach out to our social media platforms. You can send us an email at shit, we're gonna have to change our email.
I was thinking about that yesterday. Fuck. Actually.
Well, in the meanwhile, Dads After Dark channel at gmail.com. Title pending, we'll see.
Or leave us a comment anywhere on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. We are Mental BreakDads on all those platforms, so just reach out to us there if you want to say hi.
Yeah, and on that note, we hope you lovely people have an amazing day, and tune in next time for another episode of the Mental BreakDad podcast.